my name is Kim, and today we're going to be doing a Yin class focused on the hips. So, if you've done Yin before, then you know what to expect. If you're new to the wonderful world of Yin, welcome. In a Yin class, it's a bit different than a typical style of yoga that you might have encountered before. We hold poses for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes even more. So, sitting for 3 to 5 minutes can be really difficult. Do your best. Breathe your way through the poses, and we'll get there together. Good. So, as I said, with a Yin class and any class in yoga, the most important thing is your breath. We're going to start there. So, find a comfortable seat. If you find sitting on your bum a little bit tough, you can actually just take a block. If you're at home and you don't have a block, you can use a book or a pillow, anything that works to raise you up. So, you just place the block underneath your sit bones. Sit up tall, ground down through the sit bones, roll the shoulders back, lift up through the spine, and close your eyes. So take a moment here to just connect with your breath. And as you inhale, you'll feel your ribs expand, you'll feel your belly expand, you'll feel your torso grow. And as you exhale, you'll feel a softening as you release all of the air out. Your hands can come down onto your knees, they can be on your thighs, whatever you can reach. It can be either palms down or you can turn the hands palms up. And just take a moment to find a longer and deeper breath. Now to help us find that longer, deeper breath, I'm going to count us through a few rounds of breath. The inhale will be for 4 beats, and the exhale will start with 6 beats. After a few rounds, we'll move to inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 8. So just do your best, keep the air flowing, try not to hold your breath at any time. And let's start by exhaling everything out to begin. So exhale all the breath out that's already there. And now inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and now exhale for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Great. So return your breath to a more natural in and out, keeping that long, deep properties that we just worked on. Good. And then gently open your eyes. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. If there's any intention you want to set for your practice today, feel free to set it now. Maybe it's to take a few minutes for yourself. Find a reason why you're here, why you're taking this class. Remind yourself of that reason. And then take one more breath in. And one more breath out. Great. Let's get started. So come off your block. Set it off to the side. We're going to start in butterfly pose. So in butterfly pose, we're going to take the feet out in front of us. Bring the soles of the feet together. So you want to make a nice diamond shape with the legs. And then just take a moment to relax through the knees. So if you find that your knees are up here because you have really tight hips, you can also take blocks or anything that will help prop you up and place them underneath your knees. So they can either be on the highest height, medium height, the lowest height, whatever feels good for you. If you're okay with letting your knees hang down, then you can just let them hang down. Take a deep breath in. Get long through the spine. And then as you exhale, just walk your hands gently forward. We're going to come forward. Maybe you can take the fingers around your toes. Or if you have a little bit more distance, you can bring your elbows down on the ground. And then round through the spine, relax your head down. From here, you can let your head hang. Or you can take a block and place it on your feet and rest your forehead down onto the block. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Good. So while we're here, I'm going to run you through some of the things about Yin Yoga. So in Yin Yoga, we try to come into an appropriate depth of the pose. So while we hold our poses for 3 to 5 minutes, you can find that sometimes the poses start to feel a little bit more intense. As the time ticks by, gravity does its job on you and helps pull you down a little bit closer to the ground. So the important thing is to come into an appropriate depth that's not too much and not too little. You want to feel the pose. So here in this pose, you'll feel it on the outside edges of your hip. You might feel it on your inner groin. You'll feel enough, but you don't want to feel too much. If you feel like you're struggling to maintain a long, deep breath, then you've gone a little bit too far, because the intensity will increase as the minutes tick by. Continue to breathe long, deep breaths. So after you've come into an appropriate depth of the pose, then we aim to find stillness. Now, if you ever need to make any adjustments, feel free to make adjustments. You're more than welcome to make adjustments anytime. If you've gone too far, simply come a little bit out. If you're not far enough and you find that you've opened up, you can go a little bit deeper into the pose, feel free to go a little bit deeper. But try to avoid fidgeting, try to avoid moving just because you feel like you should do some kind of movement. Aim to find stillness. And then the final part after you found some stillness is to stay there for time. So this pose we'll be doing for about 4 minutes. Aim to relax through the hips, relax through the spine, relax through the neck. Deep breath in and a deep breath out. Good. We'll take 5 more deep breaths in this pose. And while we count down the final breaths in this pose, just take stock of your body and notice what's going on. See if there's anywhere that you can release. Some normal culprits for holding tension is in your neck. So notice if there's any tension, if you're holding anything up in your neck, in your back, in your hips, and see if you can just relax right on into these last 2 breaths. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And 1 more breath in. Awesome. 1 more breath out. All right, now before we move, take note that transitions in Yin Yoga are as important as the poses themselves. Because we get so deep into our poses, we need to take time to come out. So I would gently take my hands away from my toes and bring the fingertips down on the mat. And then slowly walk back up, rounding my spine to come all the way back up. Depending how tight your hips are, that might be quite a release to come back out. So take your hands up onto your knees and gently bring the soles of the feet back down. And then from here, take your hands behind you and just gently windshield wiper your knees from side to side. So we call this a gentle counter pose. It's not really a pose, it's just a movement to release the effects of the previous pose. Good. From here, walk the hands back in. We're going to come into caterpillar. So, once again, if you need to, we're going to extend the feet out. If you need to sit up on a block or on a bit of a blanket, at home you might have some blankets that you can use. Sometimes if you find that leaning forward folding is difficult in your hips, then lifting yourself up a little bit will help that, will allow you a bit more movement. So then extend your feet all the way out to the bottom of the mat. You can take a moment to flex your feet just to release any tension, but then relax the feet. They can be about hip distance apart or whatever feels comfortable for you. Take a deep breath in, take your hands down by the sides, lift up through the spine. And then as you exhale, slowly round through the spine and walk your hands forward. Now once again, if your head is going to dangle over your legs and you want to rest it down, you're more than welcome to take the block and place it down on your legs and just rest it down on a block. Sometimes being able to rest your head, which is quite a heavy part of your body, down on something will take a lot of the tension out of your neck. So while you're here, take a deep breath in and release. So what's the difference between Yin Yoga and Yang Yoga? So normally we don't call active yoga Yang Yoga, but we do when we're contrasting it with Yin. So the difference really comes down to the kinds of tissues that we have in our body. So a Yang type of tissue would be something that's a little bit more elastic, a little bit more malleable, like a muscle. You can stretch it, you can move it. It's a little bit more hydrated. This is a Yang tissue. So in more active styles of yoga like Vinyasa yoga or Ashtanga yoga, we're really aiming to get the muscles of our body moving. And we do that by rhythmic and repetitive movement. So we tend to do the same motions multiple times in order to exercise the muscle, make it stronger. In Yin Yoga, we're targeting the Yin tissues, which are just different parts of the body. So we're looking at our bones, we're looking at the joints in between bones, we're looking at the ligaments as well. And all these are much more tougher, stronger, more dehydrated parts of our body. They don't move in the same way as a muscle. And in order to properly move and exercise these parts of our body in a safe way, we need to do it within a Yin style. And because they're a lot more sturdy and less malleable, these rhythmic repetitive motions would actually cause us injury if we were to continue to do them. And that's why a Yin Yoga practice focuses on these long holds that are just gently going a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper as the seconds pass. This is a Yin style of motion for the Yin tissues that we're targeting. So like in a Yang style of exercise, when we're doing more active, targeting the muscles and strengthening our muscles, we wouldn't want to hold a static pose for a long time. It's a very difficult way of moving our muscles and strengthening our muscles. So you might hold a pose for a second or two, but you wouldn't hold them for 5 minutes. This would be quite a difficult exercise for your muscles. And same with the Yin style, we wouldn't want to do rhythmic, repetitive motions with our ligaments or in our joints, because this would increase the chances of injury. So 2 different styles of yoga, 2 different targets, different reasons for why we do the practice. Great, we're going to take 5 more breaths here in Caterpillar. And you'll notice also that the names of the poses in Yin style of yoga and Yang style of yoga, even though the pose may look very similar, they have different names for the poses. And that's just to highlight the fact that we're targeting a different style of movement, a different result. We're going to take 1 more breath here. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Good. As you inhale, just think about moving. Bring the soles of your fingertips down onto the mat. And then gently lift your head. Maybe you'll need to move the block out of the way if you were using a block. Look forward towards your toes. And then gently unwind your spine as you unroll all the way back up. Good. Take the hands behind you. You can move the blanket out of the way. Bend your bend your knees, soles of the feet back down on the mat, and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Wow. Good, so in the first pose, we focused on external rotation of our hips. We took the knees out towards the side. We externally rotated our hips. So that's one of the 6 movements in our hips. In both these last poses, we flexed through our hips by leaning forward. Good. So you'll notice as we go through these poses, we're going to target different movements in our hips so that we can stretch our hips in every kind of way. Good. So the next one is coming into shoelace. We're going to take the left knee down on the mat. We're going to take the right knee up and over top. Now, if your knees don't line up perfectly on top of each other, that's fine. You can also just bring the sole of the foot down on the mat. You can also stretch that bottom left leg out. So if it is difficult for you to have the leg bent, then feel free to just stretch the leg out. And for me, what I like to do is take my hands down by my side, lift my hips up, and just sort of snuggle in a little bit deeper. It opens up a little bit of movement, a little bit of space that I can snuggle right into. Good. From here, you bring both heels close in towards the body. You can take the hands down on the feet, and then roll the shoulders back, lift up through the spine. And you can close your eyes if you like. Take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. Great. And from here, we'll fold forward. So release your hands down onto the mat, and slowly walk your body forward, and come down. Now, as you walk your body forward, notice how your hips want to lift up right off the mat. So see if you can glue your hips down and come forward in a way so that the front part of your body and the back part of your body is as balanced as possible. And then from here, you can also just let your head hang down with gravity. You can rest your chin down on your knee. Or if you'd like, you can also stack your blocks and rest your forehead down on a block. So resting your forehead down on a block releases a lot of the tension in your neck. But if you do let your head hang down with gravity, you'll find that you'll get a little bit of a stretch through the neck and the upper back. So if you do choose to let your head hang down, just be aware that that stretch is a nice stretch and not too much. And in this yin practice, we always want to be very aware of our body and how it feels. We're not aiming to stretch these yin tissues. We're not looking to stretch ligaments or to stretch bones or stretch joints. This is not the goal of the exercise. If you actually stretch your ligaments more than 5 to 10%, they can become damaged. So we're not actually looking to stretch them. What we're looking to do is to apply a gentle stress. Now, stress, that's a big word, and in modern society, I would say stress has a very negative connotation. We're always running around, we're feeling stressed. We use it in a negative way. But stress actually, when you look at the definition, is just about applying a bit of pressure. It's a little bit of pressure in the system. And that's actually quite a positive thing when it's used in the right amount. So what we want to do is apply a gentle stress onto our connective tissues in order to use them. If we don't use the parts of our body in a safe and controlled manner, then what can happen is that they just fall into disrepair and disuse. If you don't use it, you lose it. Things become weaker. They become less flexible. They become less strong. And so what we want to do is apply the right amount of pressure that is a positive impact. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And when we're talking about ligaments, they become thicker and stronger and better able to support your joints in the future. This means you're actually strengthening your joints, your knees and in your hips, rather than weakening them by stretching them too far. So how much is too much? Well, it's a bit of a trial and error. If you ever feel any pain in a joint, then that's a sign that you're going too far. So if you ever feel pain, like a stabbing pain or a shooting pain, you want to back out of that sensation. You've gone too far. It's too much. But you do want to feel a gentle sensation, something that's May not be comfortable, it may not fall asleep in this position, that's for sure, but that you can feel quite comfortable sitting in it and monitoring it for 3 to 5 minutes. Now, if you don't feel anything in the pose, then that's your signal to go a little bit deeper. We're going to take 5 more breaths here. And last breath in. And last breath out. Good. Bring the fingertips down on the mat. And then slowly chin comes into chest as you slowly unwind through your spine. Take your time. Good. Hands come behind you. Send your right leg out in front. Your left leg out in front. Good. Roll through the ankles. Oh, you heard a crack there. Roll the other way through the ankles. And then we're going to move forward into dragons. This is one of my favorite poses in Yin. One of my favorite poses. So you're going to need 2 blocks. And once again, if you don't have blocks at home, you can use something tall. We want to start on the tallest height. So maybe some cans or some jars, anything that you can find in the pantry might help. And then what I would do is I would take a blanket of some kind or a soft cushion and place it towards the back of your mat on the left-hand side. And then from here we're going to place the left knee down on the blanket. So that's just there for comfort. And then take your hands forward on top of the jars or the blocks, whatever you have. Step your right foot forward all the way in between. Good. So from here you have a little bit of options. So first thing you want to take care of is your knee. You want to make sure that the ankle is either in front of your knee or directly underneath. But what we're not looking for in this pose is a stretch through the back of the Achilles tendon and the calf. So we're not looking for the ankle to be closer towards the body. So make sure it's under your knee or a little bit farther forward. Hands can come down on the blocks to support. And then gently relax the hips in a downward motion so you can sink down into the pose. Now where you feel this is where you're tight. So you might feel it more on the outer edge of your hip. You might feel it more on the front of your hip flexors here, your psoas muscle. If you don't feel it enough, you can tuck your toe at the back of the mat, lift your knee and send it a little bit farther back. Good. So we're just going to take a couple breaths here. This is high flying dragon. And it's quite an intense pose in your hips. So breathe your way through. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Good. Now you can either stay here. If this is enough of a sensation, you can just stay here. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can take the blocks out towards the side. Take both hands on the inside, down underneath your shoulders. And then lift your right toes, turn them out towards the side, and let the knee open out towards the side. You can come up onto the outside edge of your foot so that the big toe is sort of floating into midair. And you can either stay here or you can come a little bit deeper by coming down onto your elbows. Good. So breathe your way through these sensations. You'll notice that every movement you make will change the sensation in your hip, change the sensation in your hip flexors. So just find your way in, snuggle your way into the pose to a place where you feel like it's a good stretch. We don't want to stretch too far, we don't want to stretch too little. It's a little bit like Goldilocks. Not too little and not too much. One of my Yin Yoga teachers, Bernie Clark, used to describe it as being the perfect house guest. So in any Yin Yoga pose, like when you go to visit a friend, you want to be the perfect house guest. When you're being invited in to come deeper into the house, to come deeper into your pose, then go on in, enjoy your time. Have a great experience there, whether it's with your friend having a cup of tea or in your pose finding a nice sensation. But anytime you get this feeling that your stay has been overstayed, you're no longer welcome that deep inside the house. Maybe your friend has other things to do that day, or you've gone a little bit too deep into your pose, and it's time to slowly come out. So we're going to take 3 more breaths here. Deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Good. So with your inhale, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Gently bring your knee back in towards your shoulder. Turn your toes so that they face forwards once again. And then walk your hands back and lift your hips so that your left hip comes over top of your right hip. And then bring your right knee in line with your left knee. Good. From here, walk your hands back forward. We're going to take a gentle downward facing dog. So separate your feet about hip distance apart. Lift your hips. And come back into downward facing dog. So this can be gentle. Just take a few deep breaths. If you want to pedal your legs out, bending one knee at a time, feel free. Let your head hang down with gravity. Press down through your hands and lift up through the spine. Take one more breath. Inhale. And then exhale, bring both knees back down on the mat. Good, and then come back to sit on your ankles. Good. So just take a moment to let the circulation return to normal. And then come back down to sit. We'll do shoelace on the other side. So sitting down, back down onto the mat, we're going to bring the right knee underneath. We're going to take the left foot up and over top. So once again, stay here if this is enough. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can take the knee down on top of the knee. And if you want to snuggle into your pose like I do, you can take the hands down on either side, lift your hips, and just shoot a little bit farther forward, maybe an inch or so. Good. From here, take one hand on either foot. Press down, lift up through the spine. Take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, slowly walk the hands forward and come forward into your fold. So you can let the head hang down, or you can take some blocks and rest the forehead down. Once again, trying to find the balance so that the hip bones stay down, or sorry, the sit bones stay down on the mat. And feel free to round through the spine. Now the curious thing about Yin Yoga is because we spend so much time sitting in our poses, it gives us the opportunity to become very aware of our body, how the left side is versus the right. You might notice that this side, doing shoelace, is much more difficult, or perhaps much more spacious than the other side was. Every body is different. We're all built differently. Different races have different bone structures. Different lifestyles lead to different areas of tightness or strength. So every single body that we have is different. And we should, especially in this practice, more than anywhere, resist the urge to try and fit yourself into a shape. We're looking more for the sensation. We're not looking to make a beautiful shape with our body. We're actually looking for the effects that pose will provide our body. So instead of using our body to get into a pose, we're really using the pose to get right into our body. Those areas of tightness and tension, those issues that we have throughout our body that we want to relieve. So noticing that one side is tighter than the other is one way of just getting to know how your body works and what it needs more than you did before. Good, so we'll take 5 more breaths in this pose. And just because you have an imbalance in your body from right to left doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem to be fixed. It's just if you always carry your bag on your right hand shoulder, then naturally areas in your body will compensate for that. And you can either choose to compensate and try to find evenness, or you can just recognize that that is an imbalance that's been created by your lifestyle. Not everything needs to be in perfect balance all the time. So take 1 more breath here. Good. And then fingertips come down. Chin comes into chest. Slowly round through the spine, come all the way back up. Good. Extend the left leg out. Extend the right leg out. Take a few rolls through the ankles. Good. So we come onto the other side. So take your blanket onto the right side of your mat. That'll be for your knee. Take the blocks back to the front of the mat. Good, so we'll place the right knee down onto the mat, or onto the blanket. Place the hands down onto the blocks, and then step the left foot forward in between the blocks. Right away, you might feel that this is different than the other side. And part of that is being fooled by the fact that we spent 5 minutes in the other side, and you ended up in a very different place than when you started. But it also just might be that the left side is different than the right. So take a deep breath in. Maybe lengthen through the spine, roll the shoulders back. You can take a roll through the neck. Take a roll one direction and then take a roll in the other direction. Good. Now you can either stay here if this is enough, or you can start to come a little bit farther down. Take the blocks out of the way. Both hands come down on the inside of the leg. And then lift the toes up, turn the toes out towards the outside, and roll onto the outside edge of your left foot. Let the knee hang open. This is called winged dragon. You can gently move the knee in and out a few times just to release. And then you can either stay here, or you can come a little bit deeper as well, coming down onto your elbows. And if elbows is a little bit too far, it's a step too far, you can also take your blocks or a book or whatever you have handy at home and just bring your elbows down onto the block or the book. Once again, just making sure that you come to a nice part of the stretch. You don't want to go too far, you don't want to go not far enough. So always finding that awareness in your body, listening to the signals that it tells you. And then send your focus into the heart of where you feel it the most, whether that's your hip or your hip flexor. It's the left side or the right side. And then find breath. Long and deep breath. So a yin practice is a great practice to do pretty much any time of the day. There's no hard and fast rules about when you should do yin yoga. If you're looking for some balance in your life, you might do it at the end of a hectic week or at the end of a hectic day. Or maybe you found that you've been moving a lot throughout your day and now you want to have a slower and more gentle practice where you're not leaping around and using your muscles so much, but looking for more of a releasing type of a stretch. You can do it in the morning before practice. You can do it in the morning before the rest of your day. You can do it in the evening, whatever works for you. There's no rules. There's not even really any guidelines. Some people find that they like to do it before practice because the muscles are not so warm. So you'll find a lot of people who practice yin yoga and yang yoga to do the yin part first. On the flip side, it can be a really nice way of winding down after a very active practice. You can also do the yin part second. and do the yang part first. Completely up to you. So you've got 2 more breaths here. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And 1 more. Inhale. Exhale. Good. So from here, take the blocks out to the side if you were using them. Hands come back down underneath your shoulders. And then walk the hands back towards your hips as you gently lift your hips. Now be very careful. We were quite deep into the hips, so take your time coming out. And then bring your left knee in line with your right. Good. We're going to take in 1 more downward facing dog. So take your hands out in front of you, shoulder distance apart. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, and come into a nice down dog. You can press down through the hands and stretch all the way through the spine. Maybe take a few bends through the knees. Find any movement that feels like it's a good release for your body. Good. Take 1 more breath. Inhale. And exhale. And then bring your knees down onto the mat. Good. So we're going to take the blanket out of the way. Place it down. Now for this next one, you might need a block or something to sit up on. You also might like to take your bolster, so have that nearby as well. Lots of options for this next pose, which is saddle pose. So we talked about a little bit about the movements of the hips. We've done external rotation, which is moving your knee out away from the hip, so opening the knee out towards the side, external rotation. We've done a lot of flexion, which is this motion. We've done some extension, so when we were just in this last pose and we had the leg coming back, that was fully extending through the back of the hip. So now we're going to move into some internal rotation, which is bringing the knees in towards the center of the body rather than away. So we're going to start by sitting on our heels. Now, if this is uncomfortable for you, you can take your block. You can sit up on top of your block and sit a little bit higher. If you have bad ankles due to running or basketball or any kind of sports that you may have played in the past, then you might find that placing a little towel or even a little bit of rolled up blanket underneath your ankles might help. Good. So you can either stay up on the block or you can sit on your ankles. If you have a little bit more space, you can separate your ankles out towards the side and sit down onto the ground. So your knees, they can either be together or they can be apart. There's no big deal here. The only thing that you want to make sure of is that your knees aren't hurting. If it makes it a little bit easier to move your calf out of the way as you come down, then feel free to do that too. Good. So from here, you can either stay here or you can move your bolster in behind you. Place it down right behind you so that the bottom of the bolster is into your lower back. And your hands can come down onto your feet. You can just lift up through the spine and roll the shoulders back. And this could be enough. This could be your pose. It's quite deep. If you want to go a little bit deeper, take your hands behind you and slowly recline on the bolster. So arms can come out towards the side. You can gently close your eyes. So this might be your pose. This might be enough for you. It's quite relaxing. There's a nice heart opener happening here as well, which isn't the goal of the pose, but is a nice bonus for those of us that need a little bit of reversing the effects of being at a computer all day. So if this is enough, stay here. If you want to go a little deeper, then you can just gently roll the bolster out of the way. Take it off. Bring your elbows down onto the mat and come all the way down with your upper back down on the mat. Now if you come down with your back down on the mat, then I recommend that you lift your hips, lengthen your lower back towards your knees so that you find a little bit more space in your back. And then if you want to go even deeper still, you can take your hands overhead and hold on to opposite elbows. So this is quite intense. This is the full expression of the pose for this pose. But if you don't quite this far, then that's completely fine. The full expression of the pose for you might be something a little bit different than this. And like I said before, it doesn't matter which shape you're in. What matters is that you're getting the nice sensation in your body that isn't too little and isn't too much. Find that long, deep breath. Notice how when the pose gets a little bit tougher, a little bit deeper, that you can easily lose that long, deep breath that we started the class with. That breath which allows the muscles and the tightness and the tension in our body to slowly relax. That breath that will help soothe in and relax through the nervous system. We're going to take 3 more breaths here. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. 2 more just like that. Inhale. Exhale. And last one. Inhale. Exhale. Good. So how to get out of this pose? If you're in quite deep, it can kind of seem like you might get stuck there. So let's start by just coming out the opposite way we came in. The hands come back down. Use your hands against your feet. Bring your elbows a little bit underneath your shoulders as much as you can, and then slowly, slowly come all the way back up. Hands can come forward onto hands and knees. And then what I do is I gently lift my heels up and take some rolls through the ankles, because you've actually had a very good stretch through the front of your foot. If your feet are quite tight, then that will be quite an intense feeling. So get the blood flowing through the feet once again. And then I would take my left toe down, reach my right foot back, plant my right toes, and just take a stretch through the back of the leg. Deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Bring your right knee back in line with your left and do the other side. Good. So from here we come into our almost final pose. We're going to come down onto our back. So extend your feet out in front of you and come down to lie on your back. And from here bring both knees in towards the chest. You can gently rock from side to side. Okay, so final twist. Move any bolsters or blocks out of the way so you have a little bit of space. Take your arms out at shoulder height and palms are facing the sky. And then glue your ankles together, glue your knees together, and gently roll over, bringing your right knee and left knee over towards your right elbow. And then try to relax through the left shoulder so that the left shoulder blade comes down onto the mat. And if you need a little bit of help, you can take your right hand down onto your knee. And if your knees don't reach the floor, you can take a block and prop them underneath, or take a blanket in between both knees, whatever feels that it works for you. You want to try and be able to rest your knees as much as you can. And your gaze, it can be either up towards the sky or maybe over towards the left fingertips. So a twist at the end of practice is a really delicious way of releasing tension from the spine. So any tension that might have been trapped in your spine can help release it through this final twist. Now notice that in a twist it becomes a little bit harder to breathe because you're sort of having this wringing out effect in your organs. It's a great detoxifying effect, actually. You're sort of squeezing your organs, letting go of all the old bloods and allowing the new blood to be ushered in to keep everything running smoothly. So while it becomes a little bit more difficult to breathe, it becomes even more important to have that long, deep breath. We're going to take one more breath here. Inhale. Exhale. Good. From here, with your inhale, bring the knees back up towards center. And with your exhale, gently roll over towards the other side. If you need to glue your knees back together, you can glue your knees back together. Bring them up towards your left elbow. If you want to take your left hand down onto your knee to help bring it down, feel free. And then gaze can either be up towards the ceiling or over towards your right fingertips. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. Inhaling once again. Exhale. Good. And in these final few moments of the pose, maybe you come back to your intention, the reason that you came to practice today, the reason that you rolled out your mats and turned this video on. Knowing why you're here is quite an important way of being able to measure the effects of your practice. So set your intention, set your goal for your practice, whether it be to relax or to stretch or to release, whatever it is that's important to you today. And then at the end of your practice, check back in with whether you managed to achieve that. Good. Take one more breath. Inhale. And exhale. And then inhale, the knees come back towards the chest. You can hug them in, gently rock from side to side. If there's any other pose that you want to do, any other movement that you want to do before Shavasana, you can feel free to take it now. And then from here, just extend your legs down towards the bottom of the mat. Take the feet about hip distance apart. Take the arms wide. If you like, you can take your bolster underneath your knees. You can place a blanket over top of your body. Whatever variation of Shavasana that you like. Reach the hands out towards the side. Take one deep, long breath in. And then as you exhale, gently release all the tension, all the air out, and slowly melt into the mat. So you can stay here for as long as you have time for. I recommend at least 5 minutes. You can always set an alarm if you need to. And this is where I'll leave you for today. So have a wonderful and delicious Shavasana, and I hope to see you again soon on Lilyfit. Namaste.